Well, thank you, everyone. Sorry about the delays and disappointments, but I'll try not to disappoint you.
Welcome to HIVE Digital Technologies. We hope you enjoy the presentation.
This is our next step in innovation and going down the path of AI in a B2B business model. I'll talk about it in a little more detail going into the presentation, but I'm going to try to go through the history. And one of the biggest things when I present, in particular, this visual is for investors. And when you look at asset classes, that you notice that every asset class has its own DNA, a DNA, a fingerprint of volatility. And it's recognizing that, and most lawsuits come from volatility. And immediately, the strike lawyers in America look for, was there a failure to have disclosure? That's why the stock fell down. And one of the things that's most interesting is that you can see here that HIVE has a much greater DNA of volatility. So earlier this year, when Bitcoin rallied 80%, we went up 350%. But in this sort of research is that there's a quant fund out there, and I'm told it's Citadel, and they may have a basket of all the crypto miners. And so you can see here the correlation is very high. You can see how HIVE, on the second from the bottom, how strong it correlates with Bitcoin, and then how strong it correlates with the other crypto mining companies. In fact, the rebalancing used to happen on a daily basis, then it became hourly, and I would share with you it's by the minute. And you can see the patterns if you look at the stock charts on a daily basis. And I saw the wonderful presentation earlier on hash rate and the global hash rate and doing data analysis. It's quite interesting when you take a look at the clustering of all the crypto mining companies. One of the things that I have found is that the crypto mining companies, the biggest factor is what is your exahash of growth and how much do you hodl? So you can see like an X and Y axis that what can help you is a big hodl position, even if you have to go mark to market. It gives you sort of a group of investors that will go to you because you have a big hodl position. And the other ones, the technology that are looking for just growth, they don't care how much you leverage. You may care as running the business, but they just look at your exahash, and you can see these discrepancies that can take place on a daily basis. So earlier, it's showing you that when we move, and the crypto mining companies, some will move more than others, and we did experience this huge run-up, and I think right now we're actually not being valued for our AI business model. One of the things we did last year was starting branding with Bitcoin Magazine on the education of what we do for Bitcoin. We're very happy to be the first to go public. I'm a money manager, and being a money manager, I was trying to launch an ETF. I have JETS, I have GoAU, I have 100,000 readers in 80 countries. When I write on a weekly basis about global investing, I was trying to launch a Bitcoin ETF in 2017 and realized it wasn't going to happen, and it still hasn't happened. And Bitcoin mining, because you can hodl and have a position and you don't have a KYC or AML problem, then therefore HIVE became the first to go public and became a proxy. And what I saw from all my gold equity followers around the world, they immediately came in and HIVE became extremely liquid, and that all of a sudden brought in many other crypto mining companies. And even Galaxy went and listed in Canada. So the team, many of the team are here. Darcy, our CFO, is here. Gabe, our general counsel. Johanna, who manages Sweden, is here. And also our strategic partners, Barrage is here. And where's Vlado? There he is. And Alex, they do an outstanding job in some of the, one of the things we're the first to balance the grid. We've been doing that for many, many years. And as you can see recently, it was very important in the summer for Riot and for Iris to make money. We've been doing it. We're the biggest in this space. We also do, I would say, great hedging, how we've been able to hedge our electricity costs. And last December, when everything looked like it was coming to an end, energy was spiking in Sweden. We were able to sell back our energy, and that's also worked out for us. So HIVE is green. We've been very focused on geothermal and hydroelectricity in Canada, Iceland, and Sweden. We also worked with Intel to create our own sort of buzz miner, our own ASIC chip. Intel, with the crypto demise last year with FTX, all of a sudden dropped out of the business. We were very fortunate because we were able to get those chips for an extremely inexpensive price. HIVE is the lowest operating cost to mine a Bitcoin. HIVE is the most efficient, highest average Bitcoin per exahash. And I try to share with people that this is something of the mindset is that we don't hodl, we do that, but we huddle every day. And Darcy has to get up at 7 a.m. and Aiden from Vancouver and Johanna and Vlado and Maren in Sweden at 4 o'clock, because it's the one time that we can all communicate and make sure that we're asking the questions: how many machines do we have in, what equipment do we need? And when it's a funnel approach, and it's very focused based on agility management. So we must communicate all the time, every day, and sometimes it's only 10 minutes, sometimes it'll go to a half hour. But this concept has allowed us to be the most efficient in how we look at mining. So when it comes to margins per average petahash, we have the highest numbers according to data analysis. I see we're HUD 8. It's unfortunate for JAIME. She's a phenomenal CEO, and she's gone through the pain and suffering of doing a mega merger, and this has really hurt their ability to finance and to build a business where you're going through a transition of repositioning, going from Canada to the US and doing a merger, especially in the 12-month cycle that Sam Bankman fried the whole industry. HIVE has the lowest G&A per petahash. We have the fiscal policy that every dollar is a prisoner. You can see it has a lot to do with the amount of stock options and stock grants, etc., that can change these numbers. And we have the highest revenue per average petahash. Now, will we be able to maintain that? One of the things is that we did last November is to use the difficulties in the system to go and be able to buy new machines to upgrade our systems as fast as possible. When a terahash, when you're buying a terahash, fell from $110 18 months ago down to about $10. So in our community involvement in Bowden, which is 100 miles south of the Arctic Circle, we sponsor the hockey arena. We also sponsor 12 youth teams, and it's a very important part of being involved with our community. And fighting the FUD, HIVE summarizes Bitcoin Mining Council's quarterly presentation. We've done it in Swedish, Spanish, French, and English. And one of the big parts we've found that all of these elected politicians is that they think that the internet is free. And it's trying to educate them that if there's no data center, there's no internet. And if there's no data center, there's no YouTube, there's no Spotify. And it's amazing that so many politicians don't realize this. And I was talking earlier to Ethan, and he was commenting that the same thing happened with electric cars. They just thought that you drove them free. And so I think it's incumbent upon all the miners here is that we go out and we have to educate. We've been spending a fair amount of money and time, and Johanna in Sweden is educating politicians about the significance of the data centers. So as a money manager going down this path, I had to realize that really we're in the data center business. And something we started 3 years ago was exploring about, because we had so many GPU chips and we had such experience with GPUs, which is very different than mining Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just pure ASICs. It's like, I say in America, it's like driving a Ford 150 truck. When it comes to GPUs, you've got a Porsche. And when you start dealing with NVIDIAs, you could be driving, it's like driving a Bugatti. So we are very happy about trying to educate and present on our website, always rich content every day, every week that we produce content and go around and speak at conferences trying to educate people. We believe that Lightning Network is growing. It's going to be an important part of the adoption process. As more money goes into the Lightning Network, the faster the adoption of more people coming into Bitcoin. And the same thing happens that we believe in the ordinal world and this concept, which I'll talk about briefly. But the green Bitcoin mining, a partner in transition for renewable energy, is just this sort of case study that, and we were offered a premium. It was de minimis, it was 1% for our green and clean coins, because they're green and clean for Bitcoin, that some family offices thought that for their compliance methodology, it was a better system. So heating and recycling. This is a video camera in Amsterdam, and this blew me away, of 2 megawatts to heat a water tank that turns around and has a greenhouse of 6 football fields, 6. And in that those football field, they're growing peppers, and they're using robots. They're using robots to pick the peppers, and it's massive, but it's only 2 megawatts of Bitcoin mining. So this intrigued us, and that's why we're looking to expand our facilities and the operations and partnership in Sweden with another public company in Sweden to build a 90,000 square foot greenhouse and recycle that molecule of electricity over and over. And when you're 100 miles south of the Arctic Circle, that means there's going to be no carbon footprint of having to bring produce from Spain or Italy, and God forsake there is another shutdown with COVID, then can't even get food. It'll actually, the northern part of Sweden and Finland and Norway will be able to get produce from our greenhouse. So this is a case study, and I saw that if you've not visited the art gallery here, for Andy Warhol, whose family changed their name, and he's Czech. I no longer have the Mao Warhol, but I was impressed to see all the Warhols that were there. And what I thought was really interesting was this case study on Metcalfe's Law. And Metcalfe's Law says that if you limit supply and more people adopt that they like something, the prices grow exponentially. So these Warhol prints came out at about $1,000. And the original paintings themselves went up to $3.5 million. The prints went up to over $100,000. Now, America's the biggest buyer of them at the beginning, but who came in later was China. And as China's economic engine exploded, all of a sudden Chinese nationalists wanted to have this Mao painting. Then there was a political backlash against it. Doesn't really matter, but what's important is that these pieces of paintings, these are what I like to call decentralized, like Bitcoin. They're decentralized. No one country, no one person controls the price of the Mao paintings. But the Mao paintings have recently come down. Why? Because Americans don't trust China. And a lot of anti-China rhetoric, etc. And so these that used to trade at $70,000 all of a sudden are trading at $30,000, $40,000. And it's all based on a free market mechanism, no centralized controlled art gallery system. And that's what Bitcoin is about. And so you can see this playing over and over in art. You can see it in the world of gold. And I believe you're going to see it grow in Bitcoin. So one of the parts when I first came up with this idea of green, clean coins, the Maximists automatically didn't like it. But be that as it may, is that these ordinals, and we were told that some of our ordinals, these Satoshis that we have, 100 million Satoshis to a Bitcoin, that a handful of them that are not worth 10 cents were worth $250,000 because those Satoshis were at a critical point in the Bitcoin mining cycle. And there's a limited number of them, like Warhol art. If you can see the concept of limiting supply and having adoption, and it gets right down to 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. And something that's worth 10 cents is worth $250,000. That just sort of validated the thought process that Bitcoin that's from green over time will have a different value. If you hold it, you don't sell it, it will have a different value as more people adopt. So as I said here, I've always believed that green and clean Bitcoins over time will become more valuable. So HIVE is growing, and we're going into the explosion of ChatGPT on a B2B business model for AI. We basically took 1% of our NVIDIA chips, which we purchased to mine other coins, and then we immediately converted to Bitcoin. We've also used it for, we were mining Ethereum originally. These NVIDIA chips are all of a sudden have a brand new economic value that's accelerated the B2B. So we took 1% on a beta test, and we basically said, on a B2B model, what are they generating? And they start throwing off $250,000 a quarter in cash flow. So what happens if you expand that? And the numbers are much more like mining Ethereum than mining Bitcoin. The margins for HIVE for mining Ethereum were huge, absolutely huge, versus what Bitcoin is. And for 100 megawatts of electricity, we would have the same amount of revenue with 10 megawatts of electricity in AI. So this is a reason, another reason, a rational reason why we're taking our facilities and we're upgrading and we're building out this model. And so we see cash flow growing as we just take 10% of our suite is probably going to throw off more like $1 million a month of free cash flow. Now, it's not easy, and we've seen press releases by the competition that they bought some NVIDIA 100. And I think, Russell, you're going to be here in a panel later. Russell knows about the difficulty of HPC. As a miner, he knows about GPU mining. Very few Bitcoin miners really know about the difficulty that you need 2 to 3 employees, technicians for every one when you're Bitcoin mining. And the sensitivity and the skill set of those technicians is greater. So in this, my learning curve was listening to all these calls, and I said, you mean you can't go and buy a Happy Meal? No, you can't. And it's like driving up to McDonald's and thinking you're going to get a Happy Meal, and if you have kids in the car, all of a sudden what was supposed to cost you $7 is $27. When you're in the AI business, it's very complex, and there's many moving parts. But today, you can make about 10 cents with the best chips an hour, but if you're in AI, you can be pushing 80 cents an hour. And if you have the 100s, you could be pushing up to $4 an hour in revenue. So would you like to make revenue of 10 cents in running your business, or would you rather make 80 cents? Or would you rather turn around and make $4? So how does that happen? It's because it's not a Happy Meal. All these other parts have to get added on. And the buyers out there will pay you for short-term memory, 8 cents. They'll pay you for long-term memory, 12 cents an hour. They'll pay you if you have Juniper cables. They'll pay you more. So it's a very different, complex world, but it's similar. It all needs a data center. So that's what we're focused on building out, in addition to the expansion of our exahash. What we've been able to do in Quebec, we're really happy that it's increased over 400% from 2019 when we purchased Lachute. So we do know that we can turn around and we'll build out our other facilities, but we think that the high margin business is going to be in the AI, and right now we actually use AI to help mine, or we mine these other coins that are proof of work and immediately convert to Bitcoin. But that movement of which you're so big and powerful that you can influence the value of that coin, you cannot stay in one coin that has high margins. You have to use AI. So AI will be in every part of our life, and HIVE hope is to be positioned there. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
So my first question, when I look at this intersection of that's been enabled by Bitcoin mining, so I mean to move forward and to have a footprint in multiple areas, my question to you is, as a miner, where do you see the legislative aspect affecting miner operations in the future? Because we're entering into a period of regulation. Right now, we're talking about, regulating individual developers and fiduciary responsibilities and things like that. And it's a very front-loaded, public, retail market regulation. Where do you see mining's place in, what are the challenges or potential regulation that's coming down the pipe for miners? Because it seems to me as an inevitability, because you have physical locations, you have, essentially businesses that are the nerve center of all of this potentially unregulatable crypto activity, where, what are the challenges that miners face?
Well, first of all, I was mentioning earlier that Russell, he understands the HPC, and so does Jamie Leverton with HUD 8. And she bought in the data center business, and I would say that there's just so few of us that really understand the complexities and the dynamics of that space. The regulations for data centers is there as a business, but what's happened is this runaway government agencies that are unaccountable, and they're unelected, and they just seem this propensity to feel all over the world